If you miss a line in the game, you reset. You miss it on the track, you could die.
For you, because it's based on the true story, even if like some of the details have been shifted around timeline-wise, how much of it did you know about this GT Academy, and what particularly surprised you if you didn't?
I mean, I didn't know anything about the entire thing until they sent me the script. And when they did send me the script, I thought it was just going to be a straight-ahead video game movie about a simulator, which didn't make any sense to me. It was like a bunch of big 2 hours of people pretending to drive cars.
Yeah.
And so when I read it, you know, I realized it was really like a sports movie, an exciting, euphoric sports movie. And on top of that, it being a true story was wild. Yeah, I didn't know any of it.
Yeah, and even though Jack Salter is a fictional character, did you talk to Jan at all about like his experiences with the pit crew and like the people who were running the GT Academy at all to kind of form the character, or did you just?
A little bit, not so much though. It was more because he is a combination of several characters, I think, and sometimes I find that when you get to our story, our narrative has its own particular arc to it, and its own particular style, and its own particular like undercurrents of, you know, subconscious, what this guy is doing and who he is. And I feel like when you talk to real people, you don't get as powerful an arc. Our lives don't necessarily add up the way a character's life does. Sometimes they're tragic in their unpredictable nonsense as opposed to their, you know, beautiful poetic edge to them. And so, yeah, I don't find that real research as useful as my own personal work.
Yeah, definitely. And as I was saying, these driving sequences, you can tell they're done for real. Like there's a vibration almost. It's like you know it's real.
Yeah.
So for you, when you're on set, were you just like, oh man, I wish I was like behind that wheel a bit more often, going around or being driven around by all these professional?
Not really.
races?
No. I have to say it's horrible being driven around when you're in the passenger seat of that car going like 180 miles an hour. It just feels like you're going to throw up. It is very, very difficult to be in that position. I mean, you know, there was a lot of stuff that even though we're not in the cars, there's a lot of stuff we're party to. The cars are whipping around as you're trying to do a scene, trying to record sound. There's people going in and out, tons of extras and, you know, kind of all these equipment, these pneumatic like guns and crazy stuff. So I got enough of the visceral insanity. I didn't need to be in the car.
And there's a huge part of this movie how the characters are using music to like center themselves and just like calm themselves. So I wondered for you, are you a Kenny G and Enya fan, or is there something else you use for those kind of moments?
I used to be. I've recently sort of stopped. I've rounded a corner and it's become much more text-based for me, like reading certain things soothes me in that way. But I used to be a big music guy, and I would find certain songs to relate to characters. I like a lot of female singers with guitars, like Ricky Lee Jones, and you know, I'd go that Enya route and stuff. But nowadays, I find mainly like I like to find passages in books or plays that I like.
I feel that like the likes of Super Mario Brothers and The Last of Us have shown that whole debate about whether video games can work as adaptations on screen have kind of been it's a non-point now. So for this, as you say, it's not exactly a video game movie, but people will say it that. So what do you feel is that marks this out? Is it just that sports movie side to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, I fell in love with this movie called Hoosiers when I was a kid. And I think this movie has a lot of the same arc to it. It's an underdog story. It's a story about people who have been beat up and been through a lot, and they have a chance to do something extraordinary and impossible. And I think that there's a real beauty to my character in the fact that there's a lot of layers underneath him where he wants things that he says he doesn't want. There's a lot of complexity to the characters themselves, and I think the people are very well drawn and very three-dimensional. I think for what you think of as a video game. I mean, you certainly have that in The Last of Us as well. And what you think of as like a video game, you think of it being sort of two-dimensional, but these people are very three-dimensional. I think people will respond to that. It's a very moving story.
Yeah.